In the vast wilderness of North America, where the mountains touch the sky and the forests stretch beyond sight, there exists a predator so powerful, so territorial, that a single encounter can change everything. This is not a horror movie. This is not fiction. These are real stories of when humans crossed paths with America's most formidable predator, the grizzly bear. From military bases in Alaska to national parks across the West, 12 people learned the hard way that in bear country we are not the kings of the forest. Some were experienced outdoorsmen. Others were just taking their morning jog. What they all had in common was one terrible moment, when a 700-pound grizzly decided they were a threat. Today, we're going to take you inside the most shocking grizzly bear attacks of the last decade. Stories that made headlines, families that were destroyed, and safety protocols that were changed forever. But this isn't just about the horror. It's about understanding. It's about respect. Because whether we like it or not, we share this continent with creatures that have been here far longer than we have. So lock your doors, turn up your volume, and prepare yourself. Because after watching these 12 shocking encounters, you'll never look at the wilderness the same way again. Our first story takes us to Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson in Anchorage, Alaska. Staff Sergeant Jonathan Martinez, 34, was a decorated Air Force veteran with 12 years of service. On May 10, 2022, he went for his routine morning run, a habit that had kept him safe for years in the last frontier. But Alaska is home to over 30,000 bears, and on this morning, a female grizzly with 2 cubs had chosen the same trail for rest. At 5:47 a.m., tracking systems lost contact with Martinez. Search teams found blood trails and torn athletic gear just 200 yards from the main path. The 700-pound grizzly, later identified as Bear 247, had defended her cubs with fatal consequences. Martinez's death led to immediate changes in military safety protocols across all Alaska installations. His family received the Purple Heart posthumously, a rare honor for a wildlife encounter. July 2015 in Yellowstone National Park. 48-year-old veteran guide Brent Moore was leading a group of tourists to the famous Old Faithful geyser. This was his 15th summer season in the park. He knew every trail, every turn, every danger. Moore was a 25-year veteran of the tourism industry with an impeccable safety record. Yellowstone, America's first national park, draws over 4 million visitors annually. But beyond the geysers and mountain vistas lies raw wilderness, where the rules are written in blood. Moore was known for his professionalism and attention to safety details. At 2:30 p.m., the group encountered something not in any brochure. A massive grizzly guarding a fresh elk carcass. This was a large male weighing over 660 pounds, known locally as Geyser 5. The bear had been previously noted for aggressive behavior during mating season. Protecting his prize, the bear wasn't sharing. A sudden roar, and the grizzly charged toward the tourists. In a heroic move, Moore stepped between the group and the predator to protect his 15-person group, including children. Moore shouted for tourists to take cover while staying between the bear and the group. Witnesses reported Moore continued giving instructions, even during the attack, trying to save his clients' lives. 3 days of search operations in difficult terrain. Brent Moore's body was found with clear attack evidence. The grizzly was euthanized after 72 hours. Investigation showed Moore followed all safety protocols, but an encounter with a territorial bear during mating season was unavoidable. Moore's family lost a beloved father, and tourists lost an experienced guide. His wife, Linda Moore, said in an interview, Brent always put tourist safety first. He knew the risks but loved his job. We're proud of him, even in this tragedy. This case reminded everyone, in Yellowstone, humans are guests, not owners. After the incident, the park implemented new protocols, mandatory group escorts in dangerous zones, increased safety distances, and enhanced bear monitoring. Yellowstone's Tourism Association established the Brent Moore Memorial Scholarship for young guides studying wildlife behavior. His death saved dozens of tourist lives through new safety reminders. Jason Gibson, the logger who called the forest home. April 5, 2013, British Columbia, Canada. The morning of April 5, 2013, hung heavy over the coastal forests of British Columbia. A cold, steel-grey mist curled around the trunks of ancient cedars, muffling sound, swallowing light. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth, pine resin, and something deeper, something primal. This was bare forest, a place where every footstep echoed like a trespass. Jason Gibson, 29, adjusted his helmet and fired up the chainsaw. The engine screamed into the silence, a mechanical cry in the heart of the wild. He had worked these woods for 5 years, logging in remote zones where help could take days to arrive. He wasn't reckless. He was a man of routine, bear-proof food containers, satellite phone fully charged, pepper spray clipped to his belt. He even avoided singing, knowing sound carried. At 4:30 p.m., the signal from his satellite phone went dark. No distress call, no final words, just silence. Search teams arrived at first light the next day. Too dangerous to enter the forest at night. Too many eyes watching from the shadows. After 2 days of searching through tangled undergrowth and ravines, they found him, not far from a felled cedar. His gear was scattered. The chainsaw lay broken in the mud. And Jason, still in his work jacket, zipper pulled to the top, was gone. The bear, known as Forest King, weighed 770 pounds. He had just emerged from hibernation, gaunt, starving, furious. He was euthanized 48 hours later. Jason had done everything right. But in the forest, right and wrong mean nothing. Only strength matters. His wife Sarah said, "He always said the forest was his second home. He taught us to respect the wilderness, but he never thought it would take him." Today, logging crews in British Columbia must work in pairs, carry GPS beacons, and check in every 500 meters. The Canadian Forestry Association established the Jason Gibson Memorial Scholarship for young loggers. He died first, but his death changed the rules. David Brown, the scientist who spoke the language of bears. October 5, 2018, Katmai National Park, Alaska. Autumn in Katmai is a slow bleeding of color. Leaves fall like embers. Wind carries the scent of rotting salmon and frost. Animals move with urgency, as if sensing the long sleep ahead. Dr. David Brown, 38, sat on a rocky outcrop, binoculars trained on a female grizzly known as Autumn Queen. She was with 2 cubs feeding near a shallow stream. David had studied bears for over a decade, 50 scientific papers, a book in progress, Alaska Bears, Survival Secrets. He didn't fear them. He revered them. He was 150 meters away. Bear spray at his side. Satellite phone in hand. Food stored in certified containers. He followed every protocol. At 3:30 p.m., his last transmission crackled over the radio. Observing increased aggression in Autumn Queen. Possible food stress. Maintaining distance. Then, silence. Search teams found his field notebook lying on a flat stone. The final entry written in a shaky hand. Behavior anomalous. High defensive posture. Cubs vocalizing. She's watching me. Distance may not be enough. The sentence ended mid-word. 6 hours later, his body was found at the base of a ravine. Autumn Queen was euthanized. She had been protecting her cubs. And David, no matter how careful, had become a threat. His colleague, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, said, David understood bears better than anyone. He could read their moods, their movements. We don't understand how this happened. His death is a loss for all of science. Now, researchers in Katmai must travel with armed escorts, carry satellite beacons, and report their position every 50 meters. The University of Alaska created the David Brown Memorial Scholarship. He died studying the wild and became part of its story. Stephen Harris, the tourist who stepped into the dark. June 27, 2018, Yellowstone National Park, Wyoming. The campfire flickered, casting dancing shadows on the tent. Laughter, the clink of mugs. Stephen Harris, 46, stirred the stew, smiling at his wife Linda. Their first trip to Yellowstone, a dream come true. They had done everything by the book. Bear-proof containers, 50 meters from water, no food inside the tent. They even watched the park safety video twice. At 1:15 a.m., a sound like a falling tree shattered the night. Stephen unzipped the tent. "Stay here," he whispered. Linda heard his boots crunch on gravel. Then silence, then a scream, then nothing. She called for help, voice breaking, but the wilderness gave no answer. At dawn, searchers found Stephen's body 30 meters from camp. No struggle, no warning, just the cold truth of the wild. The bear, Night Walker, 680 pounds, was euthanized after 180 minutes. He had been drawn by scent, despite all precautions. Linda said, "Stephen was always careful. He read every rule, took safety courses. We don't understand how this happened. Nature can be cruel, even to the most prepared." In response, Yellowstone created the Stephen Harris Safety Memorial Fund, funding education programs for tourists. Overnight camping now requires mandatory escorts in high-risk zones. His death saved lives. He came to see wonder and became part of its price. James Wilson, the photographer who sought the final light, September 2nd, 2019, Glacier National Park, Montana. Glacier National Park in early September is a kingdom of ice and fire. Sunlight glows on snowfields like molten gold. Winds howl through glacial passes, sharp as knives. James Wilson, 58, stood on a frozen ridge, adjusting his lens. A legend in nature photography. His work had graced National Geographic Outdoor Life. He wasn't chasing fame. He was chasing moments, those fleeting seconds when light and land become one. His camp was perfect. Bear canisters sealed, pepper spray within reach, GPS beacon active. At 11:15 a.m., base camp lost contact. Searchers found his camera first, lens shattered, blood on the viewfinder. Then, a trail of crimson on the ice. 5 hours later, they found him at the base of a glacial slope. The bear, Ice Walker, was a mother with cubs. She was euthanized after 300 minutes. His wife, Mary, said, "James always said nature was the greatest artist. He wanted to capture its beauty, but became part of its story. His camera never took that final shot." His final photos were compiled into The Final Frame, a bestseller. The National Nature Photographers Association created the James Wilson Memorial Award. Now, photographers in Glacier must travel with escorts and check in every 100 meters. He died seeking beauty and became immortal in its shadow. Timothy Trent, the angler who loved the river. Too Much, September 2nd, 2020. Katmai River, Alaska. The Katmai River in September is a river of life and death. Thousands of salmon surge upstream, their bodies torn by bears, their blood staining the water red. Timothy Trent, 41, cast his line with the rhythm of a man who knew the river's soul. 10 years of fishing these waters, a member of the Alaska Fishing Association. He didn't fish for trophies, he fished for peace. At 8:45 a.m., his partner, Mark Wilson, realized something was wrong. Tim's gear was scattered. A boot lay in the shallows. No sign of struggle. No sign of Tim. 2 days of searching through fog and mud. They found him near a rocky bank. The bear, Fish King 700 pounds, was euthanized after 48 hours. His son, Michael, said, "Dad always said nature was sacred, but he never thought it would take him." Now all anglers in remote zones must carry satellite beacons. Early warning systems alert of bear activity. A memorial sign reads, "In memory of Timothy Trent, fisherman who loved the Katmai River. He came to fish and became part of the current." David Smith. The Dreamer on the Mountain, August 18th, 2021. Grand Teton National Park, Wyoming. The Tetons at night are a cathedral of stone and silence. Stars burn cold, wind whispers through pines. David Smith, 29, lay in his tent, dreaming of sunrise. An amateur photographer with 50,000 followers, he wanted to capture the first light on the peaks when the world holds its breath. At 2:30 a.m., a roar split the night. Teton 12, a young male grizzly, 620 pounds, had approached the site. David grabbed his bear spray, but in the dark, panicked, he missed. The bear charged. 4 hours of searching. They found David at the base of a cliff. Teton 12 was euthanized after 240 minutes. His mother, Judy, said, "David read all the guides. He took survival courses. We don't understand how this happened. Nature can be merciless to the most prepared." Now, overnight camping in high-risk zones requires mandatory escorts. Automatic alarms and patrols have been added. A plaque reads, "In memory of David Smith, who saw mountain beauty and became part of its eternity. He came to dream and became part of the mountain's legend." Simon Brooks, The Guide Who Became a Shield. July 31st, 2020. British Columbia, Canada. The sun hung high over the Canadian Rockies, gilding the peaks of British Columbia like ancient crowns. Birds sang in the alpine meadows. A gentle breeze carried the scent of pine and wildflowers. Simon Brooks, 35, led his group of 12 tourists along a winding trail known for its panoramic views. He was not just a guide. He was a storyteller, a protector, a man who had spent a decade sharing the majesty of his homeland with the world. His voice was calm, his presence reassuring. He pointed out mountain goats on distant ridges, explained the geology of the cliffs, reminded everyone to stay on the marked path. They were from Germany, Japan, Australia, all drawn by the same dream, to witness untouched nature. At 2:30 p.m., the forest changed. A deep, guttural growl rolled down the slope. From behind a curtain of spruce emerged Mountain Guardian, a massive grizzly, 700 pounds of muscle and fury, his coat matted, eyes fixed on the intrusion. He was in a territorial state, possibly disturbed by the noise, the scent, the very presence of humans on what he claimed as his own. Simon didn't hesitate. He stepped forward. "Back!" he shouted, arms wide. "Stay behind me! Do not run!" He positioned himself between the bear and the group, his body a human shield. He grabbed his bear spray, but the bear charged before he could fire. Witnesses later said they saw Simon raise the canister, shouting instructions even as the beast closed in. "Stay back. Stay calm." Then, impact. A roar, a scream, and silence. Search teams arrived 4 hours later. They found Simon's body at the base of a rocky slope. His gear was scattered. The bear spray lay empty in the dirt. Mountain Guardian was euthanized after 240 minutes. His wife, Emily, said, "Simon always put tourist safety first. He knew the risks, but loved his job. We're proud of him, even in this tragedy. His death saved all tourists in the group." A German tourist, Anna Miller, wept as she recalled, "Simon was a real hero. He saved all of us but lost his life. We'll never forget his sacrifice." Today, The Canadian Tourist Guide Association awards the Simon Brooks Memorial Award to guides who risk their lives for others. A plaque in Banff reads, "In memory of Simon Brooks, Canadian nature hero." He died standing tall, and in doing so, he gave others the gift of life. Epilogue: The Wilderness Remembers. They came with cameras, rods, notebooks, tools. They came with dreams, knowledge, love for the wild. They followed the rules. They respected the land. And still, the wilderness took them. Not because they were foolish, but because nature does not negotiate. It does not care for experience, preparation, or good intentions. It follows ancient laws, written in blood, carved in stone, sung in the wind. Their deaths were not in vain. Each one changed the rules. Each one saved lives. Each one became a warning, a lesson, a name etched in stone. We walk these trails, fish these rivers, climb these peaks because of them. And we remember. They were not taken by accident. They were claimed by the wild. And in their silence they speak louder than any roar.